Hi, my name is Sean Dupre, and today I will be telling you how to go about creating a two-dimensional role-playing computer game, also known as an RPG. I would first like to start off by saying that 2D games are just as good, if not better than today's high-end 3D games. For all of you gamers out there, that might be a crazy statement to hear, but let me finish. You can create the same feeling in an art form with a 2D game that you can with a 3D game. However, with a 3D game, game developers must spend more time working on the graphics than they do on the rest of the game, usually leaving the game to lack in certain areas that a 2D game would excel at. Whether or not a 2D game is actually better than a 3D game is entirely based on opinion. Now, I would like to know if anybody has ever attempted creating a 2D role-playing game before. Anybody? No, of course not. Well then, first, I'll just tell you what a role-playing game is. A role-playing game is a game in which participants adopt the roles of imaginary characters in an adventure under the direction of a game master. The game master in this case is, of course, you, the game creator. There are three main steps in creating a 2D role-playing game. Step 1 is creating or obtaining a game engine. Step 2 is creating game graphics. And step 3 is creating a story. Now, I know that was kind of fast, so let me just go back to step 1 and explain everything. Step 1, creating or obtaining a game engine. A game engine is a program that runs all components of a game, such as player movement, animations, graphics, menu options, and gameplay. Gameplay is the way the player interacts with the world of the game. Now, there are many free game engines out there that are simple and easy to use, such as RPG Creator 2000, 2003, and XP. Examples of these are in the screenshots that I'm showing you right now. Each one is the successor in a line of simple 2D role-playing game engines. Once you obtain a game engine, you are ready to begin creation of your game. Which brings us to step 2, creating graphics. Graphics include everything that the player will see on the computer screen. There are three major types of graphics. The first is character graphics, or who the player will play as. The second type is world graphics, which include everything that make up the virtual world the character will play in. And the last type of graphics are animations. Animations are not necessary, but most 2D games have them. Animations is, for instance, a video in the game. You're seeing me move now, that's an animation. 2D graphics are still a very popular game development standard. Game platforms like Game Boy use 2D graphics in most of their new games, and they were always coming out with new ways to implement them. I don't think that 2D graphics will ever be entirely phased out, simply by the fact that without good 2D art, 3D would not exist. For instance, as an example, the game Final Fantasy VII, in my opinion, has a perfect blend of 2D and 3D art. Everything except for the characters in this game is 2D. This type of 2D looks 3D, as you're seeing in the screenshots that I'm showing you now, and it is referred to as pseudo 2D graphics. Perhaps the coolest thing about 2D RPGs is that graphics do not have to be spectacular. This is probably the main reason that 2D role-playing games can match up to today's high-end 3D role-playing games, if made correctly, of course. Without graphics, with graphics out of the way, we come to step 3, creating the story. For most new 2D role-playing games being released, creating a story is the lengthiest of all processes and is also considered to be one of the most important for these reasons. Just like in a normal book, the hook of a game comes within the story. Without a good story, the game becomes bland and uninteresting, losing the player's interest and attention, causing them to lose interest in the game entirely. Some examples of games that would lack in story are games that are based off movies. Usually they tend to play off the movie's story in a cruel, twisted manner, usually not adding anything of significance to the story at all, therefore leaving the game bland and uninteresting. Some examples of these games would be Shrek or Transformers. The games never had real good reviews at all. So, there you have it. Of course, there are many other factors that go into making a role-playing game, but all other factors aside, a game engine, some graphics, a good story, and the motivation to put it all together is what is required to make a simple 2D role-playing game. You've been a great audience. Thank you for listening.